Okay, this is going to be a very powerful message today, and I'm not going to look at you because I need to stay centered, and I'm not going to see that. So anyway, what I'm doing, I'm recording this now, and what I do when I deliver the information, I share my screen, and I always receive information about what to do during the day that's going to impact everyone, which was happened today, and so we have a great story that's going to come through, and there is a very specific message that everyone is supposed to see and hear, and it's going to be on the screen, and anyone who is here who will see this later, this will make sense. The thing that's going to happen today will make sense for everyone. So let me share the screen so we will have this on, and then I will start. We are extremely pleased that we've brought you here again. Now, we've said that every time that you show up because it's a new time in your life. And every time you show up, it is the right time in your life. And that's what we will prove to you today. Anyone who will see or listen to this video later, it will have the same effect. You will understand that you are listening to and hearing this video at the right time in your life. You see, because you have this divine plan, you have this trajectory of your life that has gone on for eons. It's been there forever, but you only come to understand it and accept it at a certain particular time, at a certain moment. Now, that moment, as we've always told you, happens when it coincides with what is happening in your world, because each of you are here now to cause a shift in your world. And this is a really large one. And we've said to you, this is probably the largest, it is the largest shift that you have ever experienced. It is a huge one. And you came here because you knew it was going to be that important. And for some of you, that's why it's also been incredibly challenging. But it's purposeful. And this is what we are going to give you today. When we began these sessions in September, we had Roger call them Conversations with Wilhelm through September. We knew what was going on. We knew the timing of all of this. We've always known. We are communicating to you through your higher self. You see, you're going to hear something that's going to connect with your higher self. That always goes on. It always occurs every time you've lived, and it's happening now. And what's going to happen today is you're going to understand much more. You're going to start to see the perfection of your life, the beauty of why you are here now and what you came to move through. Because each of you came to move through something. We want you to say that. We want to say that again. We move through. You're releasing old stuff. You're releasing old trauma, karmic debt, whatever it is, you were releasing that, and you're doing it in a really big way this time because your world needed that. We've told you that you are moving through a restructuring. We've called it that because it's going to be completely different than what you have known, which is why so many of you have been a bit uncomfortable, because it's taking you into places that you've never been. It's taking you into places of yourself that you've denied. You have denied it. We want to say that you have denied aspects of who you are, but we also want to say you had to do that. You were meant to do that. See, because before, when you were here, there were things you didn't complete. There were things that you didn't resolve or understand or come to know, because you're always doing that. You are in a continual state of evolvement, as is your world. But sometimes it takes a while for you to accept that. Now, what we've done, we've used Roger's entire life. We told you before, you thought we were making jokes when we said, Roger, we've used 70 years to bring you here today. No, that was true. And we're going to tell you why. He didn't understand, and we gave him another piece today. We've said to you throughout our messages that we give you a bit at a time because you have this resistance to accepting things outside of what you have known. Each of you do this in your lives, but that, again, it's purposeful. You were born to achieve something. And what you are to achieve is your of evolution on your evolutionary journey. It's individual, it's unique, it's different, and it's the same as the world. We know that it has never made sense to you, but it will. You are doing something in time with what is happening on your planet. You always have been. But now we're going to give you some ideas that will help you kind of maybe believe this. We have been doing, when we began the talks, we started with 1989. If you remember, we had a message on that board in 1989. And we did that because that's when Roger first decided he was going to remember our words, put them out there, make them public, or whatever it might have been. See, because you have held something back about you. You know you've done it. There's something about you that you felt maybe I'm supposed to do this, but you didn't quite trust it. You didn't quite believe it. That's what you were supposed to do. See, because when you move through it, you evolve. Any movement that you will make now will cause you to evolve. So we're going to do a little timeline. When we started in 1989, if you remember, and those of you who do not remember, you can go, we told Roger to save those recordings because we knew that if you were to go back and put them together, the synchronicity of the events and the way that we laid out the information would cause you to understand that you have this timeline that's operating in your life. And the only reason it does that is to give you the opportunity to evolve and become more. Always. It doesn't matter what those experiences were. You may have judged them challenging, difficult, horrible, whatever words you came up with. It's all the same thing. It was to break you down, if you want to think of it that way. It was to allow you to open up to a new part of who you are. And sometimes, as we told you in a message, self-discovery can be frightening at times. That's why we said that, because it shocks you when you say, oh, I was this, I had this much. You've done it over and over again. So in 1989, we also mentioned to you in that first reading, we said Roger was introduced to something in 1987, but he wasn't ready to accept that. That was called your harmonic convergence. Humans will make up terms to try to describe in best ways they can what might be occurring in your world that you really don't have the words to explain. But this particular period was one like you're experiencing now, where a major shift of polarities occurred in your world. Some people understood that, some people went with it, and some people weren't quite ready yet. And that is because it wasn't the time for your evolutionary journey for that to make sense. If you were in physical form at that time, we know some of you were younger, you wouldn't have even remembered that. But the ones who have been around for a while, you would know it, but you may not have acted on it at that point. Roger did not act on it. We're telling you this because he knows now that he used his life as this example so he could be here today to give you the message that you see on the screen. And if you think that we made that up, we did not. We're going to show you how we timed that. So it would make sense if you can put together the pieces, like puzzle pieces, you see, when you can see the timeline of it, then you start to believe, oh, well, wait a minute, maybe I have that, which you do. And it's always to cause you to be more. None of you were born with anything less than anyone else, but your particular journey has not allowed you to see all of it. You see it at certain times. And we are here now to help you see more of it. And we made a very definite point of orchestrating all of this to come here today to give you this message, because this is what you and your world need right now, what's on your screen. But see, you can see the date when we gave it to you. So in 1986, we told you in 1989, we talked about this, but in 1987, Roger had this memory of that, but he couldn't do anything. Then he kept moving through his life, and then we took it to 2009. We did that for a reason as well. There was another shift that happened during that time for him. But he resisted it. You may have done that in your life. And so please do not judge yourself. The one thing that we want to leave with today is that your key to your salvation is going to be releasing your self-judgment. That's our mission here today. That's what we want to do, is to get you to release your self-judgment. Nothing you did was wrong. You were just figuring it out. And we're helping you to understand that now. As we were preparing for today, we had Roger make more discoveries so that it would make this time more pertinent for many of you. The other day, he opened up folders. He does this all the time. As we told you, he found the folder from 2005 that he tried to put away, where he wrote something very clearly about what he knew he was here on the earth to do, but couldn't accept that at that point. He put it away, hid it in a folder. Now he's uncovering it. Each of you have found that. Each of you have found something recently. They say, oh, wait a minute, I put that away. Why did I forget that? I was really talented here. I thought I had this ability. Why did I put that away? You've had some of that recently. And you've also, as we said to you many sessions ago, we said you would begin to see the synchronicities showing up in your life. And they would happen in such succession, rapid succession, that it would be difficult for you not to notice. And that's exactly what's been going on. So when we had Roger find the papers the other day of these things that he had written, he had no memory of, he was shocked. He goes, wait a minute, you mean I knew what I was doing? I knew what I was meant to do? Yes, and so did each of you. Now, you may have talked yourself out of it along the way, but that was purposeful, because you know why? You wanted to do it now, because now is the most important time for you to do it. That's why we orchestrated this. So then, just a couple of days after we did that, Roger had an incident where he did not have enough time. He's never done this. We've talked about it. He had to get up for an early meeting and could not find and didn't have the time to do his normal communication with us and write a message and deliver it to you all. So we said, go to the folder that you discovered the other day on your computer that you didn't know was there, that you didn't see it. Go and use one of those. And we said it will be appropriate for today. And then he remembered, oh, wait a minute. You said there's always a way. That was the message we had him pull. There's always a way, which is what we want you each to know now, because when you're looking at your world, you may be thinking something different, but we're going to show you, no, there's always a way. That was the message we had him pull that day. See, because the night before, he was counseling someone who was having a meltdown because they think, oh, everything's falling apart, my life is over. You all do that at times. It's not. And we said to them very clearly, oh, great, we're so glad you got that out. Now let's just do something different tomorrow. That's what we said. And then we were fine. They went on. That's what you're doing right now. We're saying that because many of you have had those periods recently, and you thought it was just because of your pandemic or your virus. It was not. It was something that you've been building for a really long time that was meant to actualize and being seen by you during this period, which is why you decided to be here. We know you'd have trouble with that one. This is why in our messages, we keep saying, we know you don't get to all of you to understand that you've been here, you're eternal beings, and you don't have any memory of those past lives because you're not supposed to. You see, you're remembering them now. You're remembering aspects of who you are. You're remembering those things that you wanted to complete, understand, move through, evolve to, whatever it is. That's what's going on. So as Roger went out for a walk the other day, we did this one for all of you because we want you to understand it. We told him, we gave you everything you needed to know in 2012. And he thought, that's just crazy. That couldn't have possibly happened. It couldn't have happened. Why come I don't know it now? Because you weren't ready. You didn't accept it. You didn't believe it. We keep saying to you, this is why we gave you the message today, that you might believe yourself a bit more today, because the only thing that's gone on in your lives, you don't believe that you are the people who have the ability to change anything, to affect change in your world. And each of you has it. And when you come together collectively, which is why we've been doing these talks, you have more of it. That's what's going on right now. And so as we said to him, Roger, we gave you a book. You're sitting down trying to write the new one, but do this one now. We want people to have this one. We told you everything in 2012. He thought that was just nuts. That couldn't possibly be, until he went to his computer and he looked at, we had cleverly arranged all of this, you see. We're giving you things that some of you do not understand because you think things are happening accidentally in your lives. They're never. That's never occurring. It's just that you come to understand them later. And so as he looked, he has these folders on in his mail, and one he has with our messages, any advice for today. He thought that was the only place they went. Then the other day we had him go back and look for our name, and it said Wilhelm. And there were the message of 2012. We sprinkled in a few others, but it was 2012. And then when he started reading them, he said, oh, wow, this makes sense. All of these are really brilliant. How did I get these? Why don't I know this? And then he had to take a day to kind of collect himself, because then we had him do something else. He couldn't even finish his walk. He was so shocked. So he came back in and he went to his computer and he looked, he said, what was this spiritual significance of 2012? And he found the answer. It was what humans call the 2012 phenomenon. And that was a point where each of you made a decision. You made a decision to be a part of a pact, so to speak. Some time ago, we told you that you would choose eventually. This is what you're coming to, the time where you're going to choose where you're going to go now. Because see, in 2012, that was set up, and each of you went into different camps. You see, some of you thought that the world was going to end and that everything was going to be over, and you waited for that. We tried Roger to see a story about that, where certain people really believe that, because this is what you do when you believe certain things. These people who believe this spent all their money, got rid of everything because they knew they were going to be dead by the end of the year. You see, that's why we have that message on the screen, because that didn't happen. Didn't happen, didn't occur. But what did happen is that Roger was given this information in 2012, but he wasn't ready to fully understand it, which is why we set it aside in a separate folder, you see, that he thought he just accidentally stumbled upon now. No, he stumbled upon it now because he was ready. You each are ready, and that's what we're saying. And you know that. But you've been a little uncertain about that. You've been a little afraid. You've been not so sure, and it seemed all a little too weird for you. Couldn't possibly be you. Which is, again, why we told you to go and look for the message that we've given you over the years that say, why not you? Each of you holds within you the power of all. That's what really is the meaning, the power of one. There's no one that has more power than you. We've been telling you for the longest time that there's no hierarchy of souls. We're not sure that you really understood that, because you keep measuring yourselves based on physical things. We are talking about your soul. That is connected to source. That is connected to all that is. There's no limits in that. But as you live your physical lives in certain times, whichever one it is that you're living now, you have limitations. You were meant to. Because see, your world looks different. We've tried to give you this analogy as well. Your world looks different now because each time you've lived, you decided to move through the limitations to create something more. You create a world that has better technology. That's because you looked at what you had before and you built upon it. And you've only done that, we must say this, through chaos. Most times you've done it through chaos in your life and in the world. And that's where you're sitting right now. It's exactly where you're sitting, except you came to help move the world forward in a different way. The reason that we kept talking to you in the other conversations, the reason we kept bringing up consistently that you will see differences. And if you hate them and if you judge them, you're not completing your task. Because we know that each of you came here to offer your benevolence to the world. You haven't always done that. That's why we keep saying it. You think that the people that you're judging as being the darkness and all of that, you've done that. You've been there, but this time you're doing something different. Because you wouldn't be here if that weren't the case. You would not be listening to our words if that were not the case. You would not have found Roger. Many of you think that you came to Roger by some other means. No. You were directed there because your higher self said, we're going to place you here so you will hear something that will cause you to believe in yourself a bit more, because that's the process that you're moving through. That's what you're doing right now. You see? So then today, when he was speaking with his friend, and we send him information in different ways through people, you receive your hits, so to speak, your clues through other things you're seeing, your friend, you'll hear something, and it will tell you, it'll remind you, if you're paying attention, if you're really listening. So his friend said to him, oh, wow, yeah, I remember the harmonic conversions. And then they said that in 25, there was a big shift that happened. And then in 25 years, you would come to something else. And then, what? 25 years? What does that mean? Oh, that was 2012. Yeah. Then we placed him in a group a few weeks ago. It was an astrological group. See, we want you to understand everything is connected. You each will use your tools to understand your physical experience in different ways. Astrology is a tool that many of you use, but they're all corresponding, let's say. They all have an interconnection. So in this group that he was in, they said, oh, wow, there's another whole change of things. This is a 9-year cycle. Wow. Then we said to Roger, this is 2021. This is that 9-year cycle, isn't it? All of these things we put together systematically. We did this well before you ever got here, well before we started planning these talks, because we knew what was coming. We knew where you would be. We knew the path that you each were on. And we knew that if we brought you here, that maybe you would accept more, which is why we gave you the message this morning. We've gone through such lengths to lay this out, and Roger was such a willing participant, you see, to go through all of this his entire life to get here today. Because see that message on the board, that's the one we want you to really pay attention to, because that's where we all are right now. And we used all of these linear human years to get you here, because time, it's difficult, because linear time is what humans have to use, but time doesn't really exist, and it's challenging to explain that. And as we said before, we'll do another complete talk about that one, because it is a little complicated for many. But just understand this, that you will understand and be exposed to what is appropriate. And we really want to use that word, appropriate, for your progression. It's individual. Each of you have this individual progression. All the things that have gone on in your life, all the experiences, your family, your friends, everything you've encountered, were all there to help you come to know who you are. You are never being punished for anything. And we want to speak to that, because from our last conversation, there were many who felt that they had done these horrible things in their lives, and they could never forgive themselves for doing that. And that's why things are so terrible right now. No, that was never the case. You were given those things because you wanted them. See, you knew that if you were to move through those, you would not have to repeat them again. You would heal. You would move through that part of your resistance on your evolutionary journey, and you would come out evolved. You would become this empowered being, and everyone around would witness that. They would see you do that. And see, then your example gives them the permission to do the same thing. Now, are you understanding how your world evolves? That's what happens all the time. You've done it forever. But when it becomes scary, as these times right now, you get a little fearful, and that fear will take you in a different direction, and that's not why you're here. Many we want you to understand this, because we really are trying to get you to amp up your essence, so to speak. We started giving you details about events that happened more than 100 years ago. There were so many of them that had happened in your world more than 100 years ago, because typically you repeat things. Not you individual, but you as your society, as your civilization, as humankind. You repeat things, but you do that so that you can move through them. You're doing it again now. But this shift has been a little off balance, and we've told you that. We're finding a new balance. See, because if you look back, you thought the pandemic was the biggest thing. No, because you didn't do as well with that this time as you did even 100 years ago. And you have more ability today that you weren't using. You have more technology today that you weren't using. And that's why you're still in the mess that you're in. It'll get better because now it's starting to shift. We told you that when your children got involved, it would start to shift, and it's happening. But it will shift more when more of you understand what's going on. It wasn't ever about the vaccine. It was never about the virus. It was never about that. It was about you choosing to care about yourself. That's what it was. See, because when you choose to care about you, you will care about others because you're all the same. But you didn't understand that because you started creating more division. You started creating more camps of you're right and they're wrong. That's what happened. And it's here now. That's why we're bringing you here today. We orchestrated this. We need you to understand that because you've not understood your importance. Each of you, in your own way, you've not understood your importance. You've compared yourself to others. You thought your timeline needed to be like theirs. You didn't know that you had an evolutionary journey. You thought certain things were just made up and woo-hoo-y. That was the one that we really loved. No, you're here now to do something really magnificent. And all it takes is for you to move out of this resistance to becoming yourself, becoming your best self. And as we said to you in a message some time ago, the best part of you would never harm another. And you know that. The best part of you would never harm another. Now, we say the best because we're using human terms that you can relate to, because you also know there's other times where you feel like you want to harm those others, but you wouldn't do it. And we know who you are. Now, that anger that you have felt was purposeful as well, because each of you have been there. You've been pissed at yourself, you've been upset at them, and that was to awaken you to who you are. You have this magnificence within you that you've been denying a little bit. But again, we're saying this, we're explaining this, and this is why we have taken Roger's entire life to show you there's nothing wrong. You just had a journey that was different than all others. We will give you something else, and we told you this last time. We said to you, the reason you do not see our messages on Roger's site before 2009 is because that entire period before that, from 1989, as we said, he was working through karmic debt that he had carried for just eons. We have used eons. You can see in our message, we said that because we need you to understand that it's beyond the years that you can physically comprehend. But when you just think of that process, you're just doing something different now. And so he was quite aware that he was working through all of that stuff. And then he finally got to the place where he would gradually start to let it out to the world, just like you're doing right now. And we did the progression of his life to show you that it happens when it's meant to happen. There's nothing wrong. You have not done anything wrong. But we will tell you that we need you to pay attention to the message that's on the board, because you're supposed to see it. You're not here accidentally, and you're not seeing that accidentally. And you each held in your hands a responsibility for creating the world that you want to see, and you're creating that now. And as we also told you before, the power that you each have it's in your thoughts. It's not about what someone else is doing to you. It's nothing else. It's in your thoughts. So now we're going to have you implement this message that is on the screen, because you're going to have different ideas, beliefs, ideologies about what's going forth. Each of you are going to have that. And what we also said, and we want you to go back to our messages and look up intention, because most times you do not know the actions that you're taking, or you're not understanding them because you haven't first found your intention. What is my intention by taking this action? What is my intention when I say these words to another? What am I trying to accomplish? If you were to have that kind of mindfulness and ask yourself those questions each time before you take an action. The essence of who you are, that benevolent person, that be of who you are, will come through. If you think about your intention before you act. And we're saying this because we've struggled. Roger struggled with this, and we keep staying on his case. We'll have him stop. Why are you going to say that? What is your intention in saying those words? Why are you putting that out there? What do you want to occur from those words that you're saying? And this is what each of you need to experience and ask yourselves now. And we're saying need, because we know that this is an integral part of your evolutionary journey. Otherwise, again, you would not be here. You've carried around this feeling of unworthiness. And that is only because you didn't understand the timing. You didn't understand that. Now you do. But then you have a choice. In our message that we delivered this morning, we said you might believe yourself more today. You might. Because see, you're born with free will. We can give you all the instances of the information that we've given Roger over the years, and he ignored it. He didn't pay attention to it. He knows that, but he also knows that he did that so he could recognize that within you, because it is the work that he was born to do here, now, in this life. That's why. But you each do the same thing. You have communications all the time. You know that. And sometimes you will choose to believe them, sometimes you don't. And typically what you're doing is you're making choices because you don't believe that you're capable of doing what you're hearing. And that's never true. You set that up before you came. There's certain things that you wanted to move through because it was only your resistance, that's all. There's a message that we gave you some time ago, and we would love for all of you to, at some point, go back and find it. And it is the money confused you, because many of you have that going on in your lives. The money confused you. You thought that you becoming you had something to do with your possessions, your money, your stature, your whatever it was, and that was never the case. It was about you owning the essence of who you were. You may use some of those things to get there, to ascend to those places, but that wasn't your goal. Your only goal when you were born was to become yourself. And we told you that one a long time ago. That's the irony of life. You're moving through your life trying to be somebody else. If I do it this way, maybe I'll be accepted. If I do it that way, maybe I'll be okay. That's never what your intention. That was never your intention. The intention you had before you were born was to evolve. And you knew that for that to occur, you would have to have certain circumstances and situations to allow you to do that. You were never being punished. You were being blessed. And there's one that we're speaking to specifically, because you've been holding out so long, and it's really been disconcerting to us. Because you have such talent, and you're just not allowing yourself to see it. You're just not allowing yourself to own it or believe it or touch it. And it's just right there. And then you keep telling yourself something different. You've programmed that in, which is why we want you to see the message on the screen, because this is the time that you can change that. Your point of power is in the present. For each of you, what that means is where you are right now, you have the ability to create the future that you want. If you don't allow yourself to be held back by your past. See, because your past, you told yourself that you failed, you did something wrong, you couldn't do the next thing, whatever it was. That was old stuff. This is a new day. We have told you that this is a big shift, and this is why you wanted to be here. You've never done this before. we sort of laughed when when the pandemic started, because that's telling, very telling, that everybody thought, oh, we know what's going on here. And you all made up something about what you thought, what you believed was occurring. You only did that because you don't understand the eternalness of your being. You don't die, you don't go anywhere, you don't do any of that. You're here, you transition, and you use events to cause that to happen, you see. And as we've said, and we've been saying from the beginning, the purpose, the reason you created this pandemic, this period of time, was so that you could come together. We've been saying that forever. We said it in the very beginning. Roger didn't know this because we guided him to start taking actions before he even knew what was occurring, because he has this ancient memory that he didn't trust. He has an ancient memory, you each do, but he knows that he is meant to bring it to more of you now, as each of you are doing. We're saying that because each of you are an example in your lives. You're each the leader. You're each the influencer. All those things, each of you individually are that in your space, exactly where you're supposed to be, because you picked it. The gifts that you have are meant to be recognized and realized now. And the more, and we've told you also, the reason we did the groups, because this particular period of your world is going into a collaboration where more of you are coming together instead of thinking of separation. You're coming together, you're including more. We've explained that. This is not rocket science. All you have to do is examine your world and see how it has changed over hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. And each time you change, you start to understand who you are. You start to say, oh, wait a minute. Maybe these people are the same as me. Maybe these people have the same gifts and talents that maybe they have some. It's just different, that's all. You each have that. And as we said, we're not going to stop until we have gotten you to really each time move into this a little more acceptance of your importance here. That's really what's going on. There's another aspect that many of you have had where you have felt that you were given something different than others, and somehow that made you wrong. And no, that was completely backwards, because you chose it. You chose it. We've said this for the longest time, and we know this is challenging, because the things that you have interpreted as being bad or different, none of that is true, because you're only dealing with physical stuff. Your soul is eternal. Your soul is always evolving. And each of you are here now to participate in this grand restructuring. And the only way that it moves into the direction that you want it to, because we know what you all want to see, we know the world that you want to see. And the only way that that occurs is if you start to love yourselves more and let go of your judgment. We're going to keep saying that because you know you have it. You can think, just when we said those words, and some of you right away went to the last thing you just judged yourself about. You can see it. It happens all the time. But now we have to shift, you see. We told you, that's why we gave you that message some time ago. The world you want to see is not guaranteed. It is not guaranteed because you have to do something. And what you have to do is decide to own your magnificence. And we love saying that word because it's there. Each of you has that within you. And we want you to just go in there right now and just feel that. Because as we say the words, your higher self is saying, yes, that's true. And sometimes you let yourself believe it. Sometimes you let yourself feel it. But now we're pushing you a little bit more because it's important. It's imperative, not only for you, but for your world. You agree to be in this part of your evolution of your world And you agreed to do it in a way where you were going to look at others and decide to be loving. You were going to look at yourself and decide to be loving because you've carried this guilt and shame and embarrassment and all of that for eons. We're saying that to you as well because you have done that, but you may only think of it in this life, but you've done that for a long time. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. We're saying that because you don't end up in accidental places, never. Just the ones that you begin to understand later. Yesterday, we're going to give you this because many of you have been going through some challenging times. And last night we had Roger go and do a quick post. Some of you saw it. We just had him sit there and write it. It said, depression, the state of depression is only a denial of the self. That's all. Because you each have the ability to change and transmute or transform any particular thing. But when you get depressed, when you're in that state of depression, you've chosen to not do that. You've chosen not to see it. And you can think of it as resistance. You've resisted taking a step, moving forward, whatever it might be. But it's okay. Again, you chose that. So when you change, you understand more, you see. When you take when you believe that you are worthless, let's just go really bizarre. When you believe that you are worthless and then you do something that starts to say, oh, wait a minute, maybe I was wrong. Now you start to shift that trajectory, you see? And that's what we're doing. We're just helping with that. You start to look at yourself and say, okay, wait a minute, I have something here. I've got something I can offer the world. And then there are a few of you here, and some of you, and there's some of you who will listen to this later because we know who you are. We know who you are as well. And so what you've done is this. You'll kind of hear things a little bit at a time. And then you say, okay, I'm not going to go there now. I'm just going to put that away. I'm not going to listen anymore. Doesn't make sense. You've done that. But again, that's why we want you to understand this. That's why we laid out everything in all of these timelines of Roger's life so that you could kind of understand or maybe choose to accept that yours is on a trajectory that is leading you somewhere, because it is. But we do know this. You have more available energy at your disposal right now than you've ever had in any existence that you've lived, any of it. We mean that wholeheartedly. That's what you have. But again, unless you take that step, and we're not talking about anything big, all we're doing is just let go of the judgment, let go of your self-judgment. Decide to be ridiculous, decide to embarrass yourself. Go and do something ridiculous. Get over it. Most of you are worried about how others will see you. And that holds you back as well. When you understand how brilliant you are and however you are to be seen is the way you meant it to be. As you move through this period, because we know some of you will hear this message, some of you will start to act and start to move. Don't worry, it's not going to be really fast. You're going to do your methodical way because that's what always happens. But you are going to move into the next portion of who you want to be. Now, again, we want you to look at this because you're going to see a lot of this. When you study the phenomenon of 2012, and we would like for each of you to do that with whatever information you might find, and you'll see that there were some at that time who thought the world was ending. We told Roger, no, it's beginning. And we're telling each of you now, yours is just beginning. You see, it's just beginning right here. If you pay attention to the message we gave you all those years ago. The reason we brought up 2009, and we want you to go back and find that, because we gave you a brilliant example that we want you to recognize, because many of you are going through this now. Roger was trying to hold on to something that he knew was not, he felt that he should not be there, but His dogged determination had him stay there, and he suffered and suffered because of that, because he wouldn't let go. Some of you are doing that now. That's why we gave you that example. It's time to start to let go and move into you. That's all that it is. Last night we had him see something. Amanda Gorman. We want you to go and find an interview that she did, wherever it might be, because she's 23 years old, and we want you to understand how this person is here now exemplifying what we want you each to do. She knew that she had something to offer the world. And she also knew that she had a difficulty because she had a speech impediment. And I was holding back her voice. But then she decided she was going to work on it. And she did. And then she knew when she gave her address at the presidential inauguration, which we said to you each, that the United States was going to lead the way in this restructuring of your world, which you still don't understand yet, but you will see. But anyway, she knew that was the moment that she had to step up to her best self. And she knew that she had put on all those years before, even though she was only 23 at the time, she still knew that those years and what she went through and that study brought her to the place where she could now actualize who she was and change so much in the world, just like each of you are going to do now. Each of you are. You think that your actions are not that consequential, and they're that. We want to give you another thing. We were going to give you a message about the power of one, but we will do that in a later date because we are giving Roger, we're going to plan some other talks at different times. So we will do more. He knows that he cannot be done with this, but we're going to go into a little bit more of understanding how you put things together in your lives to reach a new level of who you are. And it's a process. It's just a process. It's all that it is. There's another aspect that we want you to pay attention to because it's going to come up, and we need you to remember who you are. Because many of you have found it difficult to talk about the events of your world, politically. Specifically, that's what we're talking about. You think that you're going to be judged, and if you have a political opinion about something, well, guess what? That's why you were born too, to have opinions. But you've judged them, you see. And so we've said, we gave you a message many, many years ago, beyond all of this, about your judgments. We said that if you turn your judgments into preferences, you'll get through this a lot better. Because you don't believe as some other people. Because you have a preference. It's not a judgment, it's just different. You have a preference, and that preference is for you to say, oh, wow, this is what's in my soul right now. This is what I'm supposed to do. And you could not do that unless you had contrast, unless you had an example, unless you observed something that was completely different than who you are. And so now you can say, oh, wow, okay, I see who you are. That's great. That's the timeline you're on. And you can do that because it's helpful for me, because now I get to see who I am. And we can say this in this manner to all of you because we know who you are. We know the loving essence that you came to bring to the world. You've just been holding it back, but we're going to keep getting it out. We're going to keep having you bring it forth. Because it's an urgency, as we said, for us now, because we know if you do not do this, you will continue the madness that you've been doing. And we're saying you, and we're using it collectively. You're not separate from the conditions of your world. You're all contributing to it equally. But the thing that we want you to always remember, as we said before, the only thing that survives is the love. That's all that survives, is the love. And that's light. And each of you came to bring light. And we can say that as much as you deny, you don't understand, you wouldn't be here, and that were not the case. It may take you a while, as Roger, to really accept that or understand it or believe it. Which is why we keep bringing up to you your greatest leaders, your Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, whoever you can think of. You are the same. They all tried to tell you that. But now is the time you chose, you wanted to remember. That's why we have that message on the screen. And we orchestrated it eons ago. We orchestrated it a long time ago to bring you here now because we knew you would be here. That statement won't even make sense to you because it'll just show how you do not understand your importance, your right place in the world. No, you have this power that you orchestrated things to come into physical existence so that you could evolve, and you did it at the right time where you could help the world evolve. And that's why each of you are here now, and that's why each of you are choosing to hear our words. And you will then make a decision whether you will act on them or not. And that's completely up to you because you have free will, as do all others. Again, the entire purpose of this restructuring, as we've called it, is to cause you to come together. The coming together that we're speaking of is you. When you start to embrace and love and own every aspect of you, you start to love yourself. You're never going to fight with another person. You're not going to do it. When you have that pure love of you, you will see that, oh, wait a minute, I'm them also. That's what starts to happen. But when you're desperate, when you're feeling that you don't have enough, you're going to try to take it from others. You're going to think that if you steal from them, maybe you'll be okay. Or you'll think that if you can put others down, you'll feel powerful because you don't feel powerful right now. That's what you've done. And as we told you, it's been the play that you've carried out throughout your civilization. Money, power, love, and control. You're always using them in interchangeable ways. We've given you all of that information. Now you're starting to remember some of it. See, because you each have access to infinite intelligence. Everyone does. And you let a little bit come in. You'll let the appropriate amount, we should say. You will let that amount come in whatever lifetime you might be living. We just want to say, we're just trying to make this so you understand that this particular life that you're living, because you've judged it in different ways, it was purposeful. It was laid out for you because there is that divine plan, as we told you last time. You each have it. It doesn't look like anyone else's, but it is the same. And we're just going to leave. We want you to have that when we keep saying it, because your plan is different, but it's the same. Because that's a oneness we want you to understand. And if you don't do it, you see, as we said in our messages, we've given you many of them. Why not you? Because if you don't do it, who do you think is going to do it? If you don't step up and say, wait a minute, I'm going to start changing the world because I'm going to be loving, who's going to do it? If you're not going to say, I'm going to start owning all of me because I know that's going to make a big presence in the world and people will get better, including me. If you don't do it, who's going to do it? Each of you holds that ability and power. But again, this is a different age. And this age, you will do more when you come together, because you create this collective momentum that moves mountains. You see, that's the momentum that will move mountains. And we're saying that because we know what's coming. You're going to see more and more division, and this is where you come into play. That's why you wanted to be here, because you wanted to see beyond that. You wanted to listen to us so that you could become more secure in what you know, what you felt about your life, so that you can shine during this period and change your world. And we're using that deliberately because we know a lot of you don't like accepting that because you think I'm not that powerful. And this is why we say it's okay. Rely on one another. Build the energy together, because that's what you're really meant to do. That's what this entire shift of your world is causing each of you to do. That's why you gave yourself a pandemic. When this all began, if you remember, some of you were here then, We had Roger in the very beginning of this, and he's understanding it now. In the very beginning, he was making jokes. We had him go to every single person, and we said, ask them, why did you create the pandemic? Why did you create the pandemic? See, we did that with each of you. Because when you think about it, you'll have the answer. You did have an agreement to move through this because it was going to cause you to awaken to more of who you are. That was the point. And if we could all, if we will keep doing it, we know we felt a few of you kind of move into that place a bit more. We're grateful for that. And we've also felt some of you who are saying, oh, no, it's still there. That's okay. Because we also said we're going to keep going. Because eventually you will allow yourself to hear. You will allow, see, that's why we said to Roger, he allowed himself to hear. Let's tell you this. In the very beginning, he heard all kinds of communications and he would just put them away. Didn't want to hear them. Let me kind of ignore that. And we've made points of that because we wanted you all to understand it. And recently, when we started moving him through this, he said, okay, I'm going to stop doing that. Which is why he heard us on the walk the other day, and he decided not to ignore what we said. We said, we have given you everything in 2012. Last night, we told him, we want you to write a book with those messages. That's what we said. We want you. We know you're writing the other one, but no, this comes first because everyone needs this first now, because this is the place where your world is, and everyone needs to understand what we gave you in 2012. And it'll be more purposeful because then you will get to put together the timeline. See, you'll see that, oh, we gave you these things in 2012, but they're only making sense now. You're only understanding them now. And that you will only do that when you let down your resistance and start to accept who you are. We're never going to stop until we get more of you to understand your brilliance, how wonderful you are, why you came to the earth at this time, why you decided to be a part of this grand restructuring. It was for so many reasons. You're actually, and you're also doing this too for your ancestors. We told you about that, and we'll take you back there more, which is why we're this whole thing of 2012. You'll understand more about that because you can go back to your Mayan civilization and you'll get it. But we told you that you are each moving through this now in a way that's going to cause you to evolve and shift your world. And the more of you that we can convince to believe that, it will happen. It will manifest. See, because we're in the point of power now. You're not going to go back and change what you did. You can only act in your now. That's all. Okay, as we said that, we want you to understand what you did was purposeful as well, because we felt some of you thinking and that, oh, I did bad stuff. No, you just didn't understand it. That's all. We felt that. But now we're going into forgiveness. You will see that we have spent so much time in our messages talking about forgiveness and self-forgiveness, because that's the most important thing that you can do. It's the most important thing that you can do right now, because each of you have lived lives that you've had these circumstances and conditions and things you've done that you've judged. You've just judged yourself so much. But now you're going to start to understand it, because we're giving you this information, and we know, we felt that some of you just had a little light bulb go off where you felt, oh yeah, you felt that. And we're going to keep doing it because we know how vital this is right now. You're going to see and you've been doing this. There's something else we want to speak about. Many of you have been watching conditions and things happening in your world and not been willing to speak up in a way because you felt really afraid. You felt you couldn't really do it because you didn't want to cause controversy. That's why you came. You came to figure out a way to speak about everything, including your politics, all of it, including your vaccines. You came to figure out a way to speak about it with the intention that you came to actualize in the world. And that intention is within you. If you came to bring healing, if you came to bring people together, then you'll know what to do. That, that's what it is. All the physical stuff doesn't matter. It's what you choose to do, your intention. And you've been on a magnificent journey, each of you. Except some, you get off course because you compare it to someone else's. We've told you that. That's the only thing that ever holds you back. We gave a message the other day. We put a little bit of it in the message we had Roger, the writing, we had him impromptu, and we had him write yesterday. And that is, you are the leaders you wanted to see. You are that. And so you can't, when you look at your, let's go to your political leaders, when you look at them and judge them and say, they're just terrible. Well, why aren't you changing it? Why aren't you doing something different? Why aren't you bringing yourself there? Because you're all your governments, all of you. You've been that forever. You have equal ability, but for each of you here, this is what you came to do, because we know who you are. You came to figure out a way where you could actualize yourself, put something into the world that was going to cause a healing, and do it in a way without conflict. And we'll leave you with that because that's what you're here to do. And this period, it's going to be really essential that you understand that and begin to act on it, which again is why we have that writing on the screen, even though we gave it to you in 2012. And the date is December 21st. And as you study the information, if you do some research on that whole period, you will see that that was the date that certain people thought the world was going to end. As you see, we did not hold that belief. We knew that it was your beginning. And we also knew that as we did that and we worked on all of this, that we would bring each of you here, we would attract you here at this time on your evolutionary journey, because we knew it would make sense for you and it would encourage you and it would help you. That's why we did it. We know we're not going to eliminate your ideas about linear time. So which is why we have to use things in human form that you will maybe be able to see or understand in that sequential way. But each of you has had a path. You're on it now. You're always going to be on it while you're in physical form, and then you come back and do it again, maybe. But you're always going to be on it. And every time you move through your life, as long as you're in this alive in this form, you're going to evolve. Always. And that evolution is about your soul's journey. It has nothing to do with what's going on in the world. It's about your soul's journey. You're just using the world to facilitate your expansion through your soul's journey. That's what it is. You're using the events of your world to accomplish that. But as you do, because you're all one, your world changes. And now you each are presented with the question of what world do you want? And we're going to give you the answer to that. We know which one you want, but we're going to tell you how you're going to get there. You're going to do it when you decide to let go of the judgment, the self-judgment, and love yourself. Because we know when you do that, everything changes. Everything. Yeah, it takes some time because you evolve evolution of you, the individual, and you, your world, always takes a little bit of time, physical time, linear time as you think of it, but it is happening. It's already been put in place, actually. But it doesn't get there, it doesn't manifest unless you do something. And we're not just, it's you, the individual. That's what we're saying. We're speaking to you. And you know what we're saying, because that place where you've not been willing to move into something you desired, something you dreamed of, all of that. This is the opportunity that you have now to accomplish that. And we're so thrilled to be a part of it. We would like to open for questions now because we feel something coming through that someone needs some clarification, and we would love to give it to you. You have the ability to unmute yourself and just ask the question. Or if you if anyone has typed anything in the chat, if someone sees that, you can read that. I'm not sure.
Yes, I have something.
Yes.
Um, I invited someone in who I thought needed me, and they said no. They just came to chat, and ever since then, I've been really judging myself about why I wanted so much to help this person when they're making me feel like I'm unbalanced now because of the efforts I've
Because you
made.
forgot what you were supposed to help.
I'm sorry.
You forgot who you were supposed to help.
I know that's what happened today. I decided that I was losing myself and that I had to move this person out. But what I also learned was that I allowed them to leave their stuff here, which to them as an Asperger person who sees the world exactly the opposite way as I did. You talked about that, that we uh, don't see the other side. And it was just so stark that I don't see a world that she lives in. And it's above my pay grade, I guess. And
No, no, okay. We said to you earlier that you have experiences and you meet people to show you who you are.
yes,
Okay, you don't need to help anyone. You can't if you're not helping yourself. You just can't do it.
okay,
And that's not your first responsibility was to help yourself. Each of you. That's why we've been saying this. Each of you, when you begin to help yourself and start to love yourself, then whoever is supposed to receive that will receive it just from your essence. There's nothing you have to do.
you know what though? I realized that I was taught a very, very important lesson by this person, and I thank them for the information that they gave me. And I also told them that look forward, that I've planted seeds that may not ripen now, but in a future life, you may use what I've given to you. And it was grace, but I still
You
feel
must
like,
speak to people. Okay, let's give you this. Each of you must speak to people where they are. Okay. There's a kind of there's something that happens with a lot of people who are on their path, so to speak, or their spiritual path, or whatever they think it might be, and they think that if they, and this has happened in your religions as well, if you cram this information into someone else, then you're going to maybe believe it yourself. And that's where we're saying it's a little backwards, because you have to come into your own belief before you can really affect a change in the world, in yourself and in the world. And but for each of you, you're here now to own yourself, to work on you, and then the other will come about. And what we mean, and we're going to speak about this. You each have different understandings of where you are in your spiritual journeys. And you have to be aware of that. Not everyone is going to have that. And we're saying this because what will be coming up, you will see so many individuals in your world who will have no concept of what we are speaking of here. And you will have to know that you have to find a way. This is, again, what we were saying. You have to find a way to be able to communicate your information in a way that is never going to infringe upon the free will of another, and is never going to cause them to judge themselves and offer and not offer any sort of conflict. That's what you each are figuring out in your individual ways. So,
and I realized that, yes, that's exactly what I've been attempting to do. And something happened to me 20 years ago that told me that I wasn't ready to do the work.
mm-hmm.
And I guess I've been preparing, and now this the events, the impact of it is testing my mettle, whether I'm really serious about.
That's what you're all doing.
Yes, yes.
That's what you're all doing. You're in this period now, each of you individually, and you said testing, whatever, however you want to look at it. But no, it's more than that. Okay, you think. Each of you think that something is being done to you, and it's not. You're doing it. You've given yourself things that you want to achieve, and you feel that you are being tested by somewhere else. We gave you a message. We just put it up there the other day, and it says you're being forced to become more. we use that word because you're not, but that's what it feels like. But you are the one doing that. You see, you each set this up because you wanted these things to move through so you could release more of your resistance. That's what we're doing. So we're grateful. Thank you so much.
Please
Okay.
release me, let me go.
I'm sorry?
Please release me, let me go.
Yeah.
I don't want to be crazy anymore.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Do we have others with questions?
While you were doing your talk, my eye fell upon a few things. And one was a parable about a boat that had a hole and a person was asked to repair it, a boat that needed to be painted. And the repairer came and noticed there was a hole in the boat and fixed the hole as well as painting it. So he went above and beyond. Mm-hmm. But then the person whose boat it was came the next day and gave this guy a whole lot more money. And he said, why did you do that? And he said, well, my children took this boat out and I thought they were going to die because it had a hole in it, but they came home safely. And the point of the parable is the little things you do,
yes,
I guess, have such unintended consequences. You cannot know the impact that your actions are going to make and how it will change the world or save someone's life.
Thank you so much for that, because that's what we do want each of you to understand. Because see, you felt insignificant and you thought that if you weren't out doing something huge or something big, that it wasn't going to make a difference. And that's what we meant by the power of one. That one action, that simple thing that you might do will trickle throughout the universe and touch so many people. So many people, and you have no idea that you're doing it. We told you the story, and we're so grateful you brought this up because we'll remind you. We told you the story of many, many years ago where Roger decided to do something following his heart, didn't know what it was going to come about. And then years later, he meets someone who says, thank you for saving my life. Because something you said back there stopped me from committing suicide. Each of the actions that you take have this kind of effect. And this is why we also say that your intention is important. What is your intention in doing what you're doing? And then you'll see these things will begin to come much more easily for you. You have more?
I really like about moving forward because and embracing, because when we're held in fear, the fear will put us into inertia and stop us doing what we're meant to do. Right. So I think that's really important, to let go of the fear so that we can move instead of sitting and
right.
ruminating on what the situation is without doing anything.
Right. We've given you so many messages, and we're so grateful that you use the word embracing, because if you go to our words and search for the word embracing, you will find all the ones that we gave you that related to that. Because see, this is what you're doing. We have you racing because we said we put that word in there. See, embracing, racing, because sometimes you're racing from yourself. See, you see, that's what you're doing some of the time. But then when you start to embrace it, wow. Then you move in a whole new way, in an entirely new direction. And that is why we have the message on the screen today. Wow. Okay. Do we have more?
I just wanted to share, if I could. I'm just so grateful for these times to hear from this wisdom, and just wanted to share how it's speaking to me. Yeah, I think I really heard today how I need to think about my intention before I speak and before I act, and just be more conscious of that. I appreciate so much how I'm feeling encouraged to live truly and be into who I am. And I just feel like I'm growing so much from that. I wanted to share 2 weeks ago, I came in contact with a young woman who had passed away in 2002, and I never knew her, but I'm good friends with her mother. And she came to me and told me to call her mother. And I did, and we had a really wonderful conversation. She was really worried about me because I'm not vaccinated. And I'm sharing this because you brought this up, that I was able to have a really, really great discussion with her and communicate why I've taken that path for right now. Yeah, I want to continue to be able to articulate that. I don't feel I've been able to articulate that effectively to my husband, who were in different views on that issue. So anyway, lots of things to live into, but I'm just appreciate so much your wisdom.
Thank you so much. And you brought up such wonderful points, and that's what we wanted you all to think about a bit more, is just that intention. And we gave you many messages, and we would love for you to search for them. They called focused attention. Focused attention, because you each have that, and that is how you will utilize the message that we have on the screen today. When you are conscious and thinking about that intention that you have, you will have this moment of recognition before you do anything, and then your focused attention will start to manifest what you truly desire, you individually and your world. And that's just so powerful to come to that. And again, we need you to understand, and even in situations where you are with your spouse, for instance, your partner, your family, you're going to have different ideas about things because you're each on individual soul journeys, and you come together to understand that. And each time, and most of you here, this time you came to figure out how you can own your journey, your truth, and allow others to do the same. Because we said, the only thing that survives is the love. The only thing that survives is the light. And you have to find that within your soul's journey. And we can't tell you what that is. We just know that it's there.
I'd just like to say to everyone here, you are not alone, and we are not alone, because we're building our community. So don't be scared. We are not alone.
We're so grateful to each of you. We have, if you haven't known, we have been putting such energy into doing these talks because we know how important how vital they are now in your life, in your evolutionary journey, and that of your world. We do know that. And so now as we move along, you will begin to understand this. And we just want you to know that you have always been on a journey that was designed to take you to your best self. That's all that's going on, individually and collectively. We're complete.
90 minutes, Roger.
It was not.
Yes, 90 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
It was.
Oh my gosh. Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, there's somebody still in the waiting room.
And you hardly broke a sweat. You're getting in good shape here.
No, I not really. It's cold outside. It's freezing in here. So no.
Oh, I got it. You're channeling in a freezer.
Yeah, I needed to. Yeah.
Yeah, the time is not important. It's the time length is what you need for the message to touch people today. And I get goosebumps when you're talking, and it's you're connecting to people, and
wow.
You don't realize the impact you're having in the world.
Thank you. This was wonderful. So yeah, we're going to do more, and as I figure this out, I'm being directed so many things, but as I figure it out, I'll put it out there, because what I've been told is that I have to keep going because I have to break down my resistance if I can't, if I'm going to help others. So, yeah, this is great. Thank you so much. And I'm still shocked at the time. I have no concept. Okay, I guess I need to change the times on the events or something. I don't. We'll figure it out. All right. Well, thank you all so very much.
I just wanted to repeat what people said about last week.
Mhm.
You were speaking directly to me.
Mm. Yeah. Oh, great. Oh, good.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you all. All right. I'll see you all soon. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your weekend.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care.